looks like you're going to have a pretty new team this year. A lot of transfers coming in, freshmen. Just if you can kind of briefly talk about what this team's going to look like.
Yeah, it's of course that picture remains to be painted, but I will tell you this: 2 years ago, of course, we were coming off of a bad season, and the very first day, and I think y'all probably caught on to that pretty quick as well. It was evident that we were going to be much improved, and I'm not saying that from necessarily that we had just this incredible amount of extra talent than we had the year before, because that wasn't the case. But it was just the feel, kind of the type of young men, character, of course, talent level's good, and again, not to overstep or be premature to say something that's not really developed yet, but got a great feel for the team, and they've immediately gelled. There's talent there, but just the way that they approach their everyday work has been really, really encouraging, and I really, really like our team. And perfect, absolutely not. But it's fun to work with them every day, and they've got kind of that it factor going right now. Now, of course, we know bullets have been flying yet, meaning that we haven't competed really that much against each other yet. So you don't begin to have those dynamics. With, some players playing more than others, and so we'll have to see how that all develops. But I really like our character of our team and the feel and culture of our team so far.
It's super early, obviously.
Yeah.
Could you speak to some of the new additions, be it a freshman or
Yeah,
I
kind of look at it, maybe kind of separate those guys. Of course, this day and time, gosh, I could get off talking about that. I'm actually just coming from a meeting, and that was the dominant part of the conversation. But first of all, our freshmen, Christian Reed, Jet Montgomery, Brewer Caruth, all three have really exceeded expectations. And I say that because we haven't had a freshman in 3 seasons. With the change of rules, it just doesn't make as much sense anymore for us to recruit high school players. And I'm speaking for a lot of people at the mid-major level, that it just doesn't make that much sense. A freshman comes in, don't play as much as they think they should play. They're not as willing to engage in the process like it used to be, where it was probably about your junior year before you ever got any kind of significant playing time, unless you were a special guy. Of course, if they do really well, come in and play and do really well as a true freshman, it's a challenge to keep them, because you have other people, frankly, recruiting them off your roster, whether they're in the portal or not. And so that kind of a change of our attitude and philosophy, unless we have a great, we call having our claws, unless we have some support behind them. And for instance, Brewer Caruth, Brewer's mom and dad went to school here. His dad went to school here, and from Macomb. So he's going to be less likely to leave away from home. Jet Montgomery's daddy was a great football player for us here, receiver in the early 90s when Favre was quarterbacking. Christian Reed is from Miami, Florida, played for Coach Wan's, one of Coach Wan's former assistants in high school. So we've got, when it's not sunny in 72, and we know that most days are not sunny in 72, it's not perfect, he has a bad day. Instead of somebody on the other line going, yeah, well, you need to look for another home, they're like, hey, that's part of the deal, learn to deal with it. And kind of like a good parent would do. And but I will say this about them, they have really exceeded expectations. All three very talented. All three are going to have a chance to play this year. And if you'd have interviewed me just before they got on campus, I said, well, it'll take a year or two, normal process. But all three are very talented. Montgomery and Caruth can really, really shoot the ball, which was a priority for us. That's not surprising. But how they've been able to assimilate quickly to the Division I level has been good. And Christian Reed is body ready, great athlete. I keep kind of kiddingly saying we don't need to let Coach Hall come over here and watch him, because he's got that body type and aggressiveness. And so anyway, those three guys have exceeded expectations. We have 5 transfers that we signed in the late. Those 3 freshmen we signed, of course, early, and we signed in the late session. We signed 5 really good players, in no particular order. Trying to make sure I don't leave any out, Jack. Christian Watson, he'll assume a lot of the role that Austin Crowley had. Going to be a guy that'll get the opportunity to score a good bit, ball in his hands, 6'7", very talented, skilled. A transfer from the University of Miami. High character young man, works extremely hard. Again, better than advertised, kind of like we were saying about the freshman. I mean, he was top 100 player coming out of high school. Played in a famous Catholic league in Washington D.C., which is considered the best high school league in the country. Of course, had a good, solid career, very similar to Austin in the fact that at Miami, he played a lot. You know, Austin played a lot at Ole Miss. It wasn't that he wasn't playing, but he wanted just to be able to play a bigger role, and we're fortunate that he's here. One of I think probably the biggest maybe steal of the class, and is going to be a guy that if you look at his background, because he's coming directly from Division II, is a guy named John Wade. John, 6'5", really good athlete, run, jump. He does have a class he has to finish this summer, but he's a really good student. In my 10 years of being a Division I head coach, he's my first math major. So he's very intelligent. I mean, but he just, to get to where he's eligible, he's got to graduate. So he still had one more course to finish, and he's doing that this summer. So of course he's not been able to formally work out with the team, but he has been able to. I've been able to watch him shoot on the side. It doesn't take much to see how talented and skilled he is. So John Wade is a name that people are gonna know really quickly. 6'5" combo guard, like I said, really run, really jump, athletic, skilled, and can play a lot on the floor with Nefta. At the same time, DeAnthony Gordon is a young man originally from Mobile, had a great relationship with Coach Nick Williams, who's of course from Mobile. Played at the University of Arkansas Little Rock, had 3 really good years. He's all league. Just a good, tough, heady, skilled player. Denaje Harris, who's coming back, and y'all are going to be really, I don't want to say surprised, because Denaje has always been a very productive player, but the areas that he may have been a little bit, or where most people considered a weakness of his game, his ability to shoot the ball from outside and really score the ball. He's always been a great defender, great nose for the ball, great rebounder, very athletic at his size, can guard every position on the floor. But a lot of people would say, well, he doesn't shoot it very well. That they can't say that anymore, and that's a credit to him. Alfred Worrell, top 50 junior college player. He's from John Logan. Also has a relationship because he's from Washington D.C. With Christian Watson. Of course, Tegra is they all played in that same league. Sharp shooter, great range. Somebody compared him the other day back to the 80s with Casey Fisher. I mean, he really, really can shoot it and is at great range. And again, that was a big emphasis for us in recruiting. I think I've covered all 5 of those guys. Certainly don't want to leave any of them out. So the others are kind of our 8 new faces that we have out there at the moment, and just really pleased. So anyway.
Jay, I don't think we've gotten to really speak with you since your heart attack. I mean,
thank you for asking.
How are you? Just been feeling this?
Yeah, a little bit better and a little bit better every day. It's been, and of course it was a shock to me because I'd really never had any type of health issues. And I didn't even really have a primary care doctor, and but I went straight to a cardiologist. And first of all, I'm very thankful for the people at Forest General Hospital, and frankly saved my life. And so I'll always be grateful to them and the doctors and nurses and everybody that took care of me there. And I appreciate you asking, Sam. I really do. It means a lot. But I'm doing much better. I feel very, very close to normal. I think any of my health, any as far as my health, I think is just because I'm somewhat getting a little bit older. My knees hurt a little bit more than you used to, and that type of thing. But my back hurts sometimes when I'm standing up on the floor for too long. But I think that has something to do with just being 58 and nothing to do with my heart. My heart's and of course the doctors are telling me the same thing. I'm doing great. So thank you.
Just speaking to all those guys you named, do you feel like this team has more depth this season? You can throw guys in there that can maybe play one or two different positions? Yeah,
I think we'll of course have a lot of depth, and it's always been my philosophy to have guys that were positionless, and I always felt I just wanted to have complete basketball players. That was the term I used as a high school coach, and we would train them as such. We wanted every player to be fundamentally sound, to be able to handle it, pass it, shoot it, drive the ball mid-range, shoot the three, no matter what their size was. And I think when you have a situation where you're having to hide players on the floor because they can't do certain things, you're going to be limited to how successful you can be. And I think this year you'll see our team that's much more positionless, and which is how we want to play. They make you harder to guard, harder to prepare for when you have a lot of players that can all do the same thing. Now, do you still have some guys on the team that will have to play to their strengths? Yes, you got two big kids, Lee Biat and of course Tegra. Of course, let me mention about Tegra. This is another player that has really. I didn't think he got quite the fair shake last year. If y'all kept up with us last year, he had help me out, Jack. He had a cast on his wrist until about a week before we played Mississippi State, and then really never over the course of the year was he able to have great usage of his hand because it was weak and so forth. If y'all remember, he would fumble a lot of balls, or he'd get his hand on a rebound and it would fall away, or he may not catch a ball that was probably an easy, just different little things like that. But he's dropped some weight in a good way. He's really stayed. He's been here, had very little break in between the spring semester and the summer semester coming back. Looks great, body, and really playing at a whole different level. And we're going to need that. But we still have a couple of players, he and especially Lee Biat, that aren't quite positionless, and of course at 7 feet, we're going to want to play to their strength. So, of course we'll have an offensive package in there when they're in there to keep them a little bit in a position to play to their strengths. And of course I think that's what some of coaching is putting them in the best position to be successful. So anyway.
How's Nefta's injury recovery coming along? And
I'm gonna put it first of all. Todd McCall, who's assistant athletic director over sports medicine for us, and just does an incredible job. Been doing it a long time. He's just as good as anybody in the country. Todd told me that with the surgery that they had right when the season was over this past spring, what they did is they came in and he said they should have done it the prior surgery, but the doctor wanted to try some other types of surgery. But they put a metal plate over the broken part of his foot. Todd put it this way. He said, of course, we can never predict any other type of injury. He may have, break an arm, or he may break another leg, or whatever it may be. He said, but that part of his foot and that injury won't happen again. So, and then to watch Neff at practice, this is what I'm conscious. We all know how good a player he is and what he brings to the table, but to watch him, I'm looking at, is he favoring the foot? Is he, does he have to be removed? Does he have to remove himself from, trying to build back into it? He's full speed and has shown absolutely zero negative effects of the surgery. So let's hope and pray that he can continue where he is. It's hurt our team the last 2 years, not to have him when we were counting on him and him being such a dynamic player. But so far so good. He's looked great. His conditioning is getting close to being back where it was, and his foot has seemed to be 100%. It seemed to have healed properly. So I'll give our medical staff credit for that.
What do you think a backcourt with Curbelo and Nefta looks like?
Could-
How do you feel like they complement?
Yes.
one another?
You know, of course, Andre, our Andre Andre's a potential All-American, and he showed signs last year of being that guy at times. But he, of course, fought a number of issues with concussions and things like that. Of course, he suffered a pretty severe concussion during the James Madison game, just as about the third game back, when the NCAA changed their rule all of a sudden to make him eligible. But here's about Andre. He never was. I think because of he went from not being allowed to play most of the season. So I think he had kind of checked out as far as playing that season. All of a sudden, one day on this lawsuit, they rule all these kids across the country eligible. So I don't think that he had prepared himself mentally or physically. But you still saw, you saw a guy get a triple-double first time, the only one at Southern Miss since 1981, and really had not practiced very much. It was not ever in great shape, and then was, of course, in and out. So one of the things, if he's consistent and he got himself mentally ready to play, that, of course, not only be one of the best backcourts in our league, it had potential to be one of the best backcourts in the country, especially when you throw in a Christian Watson or one of those guys going to be playing with them. It's an exciting thing to think about. But again, when you start saying some ifs, you have to, all that stuff has to come in and be settled, and he's got to be ready to rock and roll. But we think they'll be able to do that.
What's just the status of Lucas? I'm not sure it says that.
Yes, he's off right now playing with his national team, and so it's been a little bit up in the air because he's assured me that he's going to have all that taken care of, and of course there was a little bit of discussion whether he needed to go play with the national team, and I know that's such a huge deal, especially for foreign players. But he still has to graduate from junior college, and he's in the same rule that's applied to John Wade. Of course, John's here, and he's getting his done, and so I'm a little bit worried about Lucas in that sense. Is it doable? Absolutely, but that's between him and Salt Lake City Community College at the moment, and him not being here worries me a little bit. And of course, that's just my natural anxiety about making sure that all of our guys are eligible. But when it's out of not that we could control it, but when I'm not seeing him every day, I don't know exactly how he's doing every day, and he's playing with his national team, I'm a little concerned about that. But that's another kid that could be a big factor. Of course, I didn't mention him earlier simply because of that. He's not quite here yet. He was on campus in the spring, but he's not here, of course, in the summer yet. We do expect him in the first week of July to be back, so I can give you a little better update next time we get together. But I'm a little concerned about that, to be honest with you.
Last few years, it felt like Austin Crowley was really kind of the unspoken leader, very vocal in the locker room. Do you feel like who might step into that role?
I don't think there's any doubt who it is. Nefta Alvarez, great leader. What I love about Neff, of course, this is a guy that's been around the block before, but without, if you have to counsel a kid to say, all right, this is what we need you to say, to kind of get the message to the other players. We need to really be focusing on this or that, or then he's, to me, is not necessarily a natural leader. You don't ever have to tell Neff. Neff a lot of times has already said, and what the great thing is he's already said what you would have exactly said. And a player-led team is always much better than a coach-led team. A coach will lead when there's an absence of leadership, and sometimes when you're only doing it, especially on a basketball team, you've only got 13 scholarship players and a couple of walk-ons, or 15 or 16 guys on the roster. Sometimes you just have years where you just don't have either great leadership or sometimes, to be honest with you, poor leadership, and that's when a coach has to kind of lead the team the best he can, but it's not the most effective. The most effective team is a player-led team. Of course, Austin did a great job. Austin learned from DeAndre Pinckney and Felipe Hasse. He kind of took the reins. And now Nefta, of course, not only has he taken the reins, he's taken them and of course, running with it. So that's, again, I kind of going back on something that was spoken to a lot last year, is Nefta, not having him, it hurt us on the floor badly. It really hurt us because he wasn't there and off the floor in the locker room. So we've got, I think, one of the best leaders in the country in Nefta, and he doesn't have to be told what to say or do, because he's a natural leader. And he has that charisma that you just can't, you can't give to anybody. He's got that natural charisma and leadership ability.
Any more thought or possibility of adding a late addition?
Yes, we've got we're involved in an SEC transfer. If you go back and look, Glenn, at some of our prior comments and so forth, probably can deduct who that may be. But I'm not, of course, because of that, I'm not at liberty to really talk about it. But yes, there is a possibility, and I think it would be a player that would be a potential starter.
Talking a little bit more about Denaje, the conversations you maybe had with him to kind of welcome him back to Southern Miss, and just what's that say about him to know that he wanted to come back here?
Well, I think it says a lot, and of course, I've been doing this a long time, and of course, I learned a long time ago, don't let my pride and ego get in the way of things that especially can help our program. And I will say this about Denaje: he was a pleasure, and I'm talking about prior to him returning, a pleasure to coach every day. Very consistent, zero issues. The funny thing about Denaje, he was here when Coach Sadler was here. So gosh, I know it, and he's still eligible, y'all. And but it's good to have a 25-year-old out there. I promise you. But when of course, like I said, he was here. He was here the year before I got here, and he and Jeff Armstrong, of course, have been here. Jeff, the whole time that I've been here. So I kind of have a special, relationship with those guys just because I've known them so long. Both of them are like sons. But Denaje handled things. He was finishing his 5th year. If you rewind back to the spring 2 seasons ago, he had been here 5 years. He had just graduated, and was being, even though he was not in the transfer portal, was having money dangled in front of his face. I don't know of any kid that I think I'd have done the same thing. Now, when he got there, I think he realized that, those guys at USM, they care about me, just like they do all of them. And I think our family bond and unity that we try to live every day, he saw the difference. And whereas, of course, at the level that he went to, and nothing against Arkansas, it's more business-like and contractual, and we try to have more of a family atmosphere where we truly care about them, and Denaje, I think, realized that, and again, to his credit, and I referenced this earlier, when Denaje really, instead of getting to Arkansas and not playing as much as he wanted to play, I think instead of him sulking, and he continued to work on his game. The 2 areas, ball handling and his ability to shoot the ball, were what probably kept him off the floor a lot at Arkansas. He is so much better in those areas. It's really, y'all have to see. And next time we get together and y'all have had a chance to watch us work out, I want y'all to tell me what y'all see, because y'all see the same things. And but you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Did he reach out to you guys, or was
Yes, he did. He reached out to, first of all, to Coach Zay Carson. They always had a great relationship, and he called Coach Zay and said, Coach, I'm going to have one more year. I got to make this one right. Of course, he has a professional dream like all of our players. And he said, do you think Coach Ladner would give me another chance? Coach Zay, of course, called me. He said, Coach, I just got an interesting phone call, from Denaje. What are your thoughts? Because, of course, not that I had forgotten about him. In fact, I would watch the Arkansas box scores and catch him on TV when I could and see if he would get in the game. And naturally I said, man, Coach, I said, I thought there were times last year during the season that we really missed him on both ends, but especially defensively and his versatility, athleticism. You know, you're talking about a 6'7" guy that can do a lot of things, and now and of course I didn't know this at the time till he came down here on his visit, and I watched him shoot. I was like, man, it's not even the same kid. And now you're adding a lot of he's addressed, like I said, he's got an offensive game now, and but he averaged right at 10 points a game 2 years ago. So, but that's how that kind of played out. He called Coach Zay, asked him, and I said, naturally, we were, because of the relationship that we had. And when he left, I didn't finish my thought a few minutes ago. When he left, he handled it in a first-class way. He came in, he talked about it man to man. He wasn't like some guys a couple of years ago that you know, they were gone in the middle of the night, and the next day you look, where's so-and-so? Coach, I think he's gone. You know, I mean, he handled it like a man, a gentleman. He did it exactly the way it was supposed to be done. Like I said, in the same situation, I don't know many people that would have turned down the money that he got last year to go to Arkansas, and especially a chance to play in the SEC. But at the end of the day, thank goodness he's got a year left of eligibility, and now he wants to come back home where he's comfortable.
Have you ever heard of?
We'll go one more question.
Have you ever heard of a player coming back from the transfer portal?
I
like
haven't.
that?
I mean, I'm certain, you know, that there are situations that I'm just not aware of, but and normally, to be honest with you, coaches at my level, most of us have a big egos, and you know, you take it personal when something like that happens, that he left on his own. But I never felt like that with him, and it really goes back to, again, how he handled it. And had he done it the other way and not handled it like the way, in the class way he did, I probably would not have. But because he did, and he communicated right, expressed his feelings, I can still remember the entire conversation that day. We're sitting in there, and of course I said, have you really thought about this? Of course, discussed it with your parents and so forth. You feel like this is the right thing to do? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I remember him leaving, and him, both of us standing up, and Coach, I love you. Thank you for everything, and so forth. Well, of course, at that point, it was not furthest thing from my mind is that he would eventually come back. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think that he had a year of eligibility, you know. But like I said, 25 years old, this will be his 7th year playing basketball. But I'll tell you what, I'll take a team of 25-year-olds. And I had a coaching friend of mine come in and watch us practice, Coach Bill Wallace, who's a longtime coach at Southwest Mississippi Community College. Of course, he wasn't Denaje's coach. He had already moved to the athletic director position at Southwest when Denaje was there playing his first year. But he was like, Coach, I don't even recognize that kid, you know. And then another thing he thought of, basically, I got a marketing tool for you. He said, Harris and DeAnthony Gordon and Christian Watson, all of them look the same. They're all 6'7", long and athletic. And Jack, he said, and he sent me a picture of Chevy Chase and them from the Three Amigos. He did, and then their black sequin outfits, of course, if y'all remember that movie. And so anyway, he's already coined that. And I said, well, I'm gonna pass that on to Jack McDonald and see if we can. That may be a little market employee for this year. But it is good to have that kind of length and all those guys together. And of course, Denaje be part of that group.